Welcome to another episode of Platica Politica. I'm your host, Robert Vargas III, and I'm so glad you're joining us right here on Platica Politica. We're also live on Facebook, so jump on over there and watch us either on Facebook, YouTube, or anywhere you get your social media or podcasts. We've got a great show for you ahead. We're so excited to be joined by Alex from the No Kings protest. There's protests happening all across the country. One is happening right here in San Antonio. They're expecting over 10,000 people to come together at Travis Park. So go out and check them out, but you can hear all about it before you do that right here on Platica Politica. Also joining us is Tony Fuentes from SACVF, the San Antonio Coalition of Veterans and Families. Today, they are celebrating what they call the Vietnam Veterans Recognition Day. They're going to be talking about everything that's going on and how this important organization, SACVF, steps in to help veterans in need. So stay tuned for that. Also joining us is a conversation with Mary Pietrazik. She's a local criminal defense lawyer that's doing some really big work all across the state. She's involved in federal indigent defense. We're going to be talking about ICE at the airports. Is it a good time for you to travel if you have some sort of immigration status? Also, she's going to be talking about what your rights are if you get stopped by a federal agent, a federal ICE agent versus a police officer, and what your rights are if you get stopped by a police officer on a traffic violation. We got a really interesting show today, so I hope you'll stick with us. You're listening to Platica Politica. We'll be right back.
Está sintonizado. You're listening to Platica Politica. We're live on KEDA Radio Jalapeño 99.9 FM and 1540 AM and on Facebook Live. Stay here for the latest news, politics, and a little bit of cheeseman.
And we're back on Platica Politica with Alex Savella. He is with 5051 San Antonio. How are you doing today, sir?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Tell us about this amazing organization that you guys have here in San Antonio. I think a lot of folks have heard about No Kings and things like that, but what is 5051?
Yeah, so 5051, first of all, is like the organization behind No Kings. So everyone that has a No Kings in their city, it's probably being organized by 5051 or their local indivisible chapter. For the major cities, it's probably their 5051 chapter. And so 5051 is a national movement that has branches in basically every major city. It stands for 50 states, 50 protests, one movement. So the idea is when we have a major event or protest like No Kings, that everybody in the country is protesting on that same date. And if you've been paying attention to these previous No Kings rallies, this is going to be the third iteration. Like each time we've gotten millions of people out across the country, and it always makes national news. So we kind of expect that same outcome, hopefully. And so, yeah, in San Antonio alone, we've been bringing out over 10,000 people, which is up there in some of the biggest marches we've had in San Antonio as far as like a political protest. And so we're really looking forward to the third version of No Kings.
So No Kings is a national movement from 5051. And so we've seen it all over the news, these No Kings rallies, No Kings rallies. Tell me, what is the mission? What are you trying to accomplish during these protests?
Well, the 5051 movement started as a response to the second Trump administration, especially in terms of, how he's just immediately been disregarding the Constitution from day one, essentially. The way he attacks free speech, the way that he has joked about running for a third term, the way that he's utilized ICE in our neighborhoods, and more. So No Kings is essentially calling out the fact that, as America, we initially wanted our freedom from a king. And the idea was that these presidents are a way to check that power, that no one would have too much power with, the checks and balances, et cetera. And so we're seeing a lot of centralization of power under Trump and the presidency. And it's a way to bring light to that, to bring people to action, and to educate.
That's amazing. It's really interesting. You're right. The whole purpose of our country, the 4th of July, the reason we have a Declaration of Independence is because our forefathers said that they did not want to have a king or submit to a king. They wanted the right to religious freedom, the right to organize peacefully, and the right to bear arms, and all these other great things that our country takes great pride in. And so I think it's really amazing that you're doing that. And it has been a truly, truly strong phenomenon that people have seen all across the country. Having said that, what is the number one mission? What do you want people to know about these No Kings protests?
I mean, I would say the number one mission, if anything, is to bring about a community that wants to bring together like positive action to the community. And look, we know that realistically, like, Trump isn't going to see these protests and like, I resign, I give up. We know that's not going to happen. But protests, they take a long time. When we started off in the very beginning, over a year ago now, Elon Musk was like number 2. It was,
an unelected person
doing this. And we know that conservatives in particular pay attention to these because they constantly comment on it. They constantly try to downplay us by saying that we're paid or that we're anti-American, etc. And I mean, those things are just funny to me. But it's also it's also a little it's reinforcing the fact that these protests do work in some aspect. And I think Elon, he's a guy that really likes to be liked. So when he saw all these protests that were calling him out, I really feel like that definitely had an effect on him.
Yeah.
And so, hopefully we just continue doing that. We put a lot of pressure on ICE, in between these No Kings protests, and that probably had an effect on, No having to be fired. So we're just going to continue doing this. We're going to continue bringing light to issues that we feel are currently wrong in our country. And hopefully we can, as a collective, make a difference.
Well, we're excited to see everyone today at 5 p.m. at Travis Park. It's a beautiful Saturday morning. It's a beautiful day in San Antonio. And we know that the most American thing you can do is stand up for your rights and stand up for your freedoms. It's guaranteed to us in the Constitution. The right to protest is the ability for we, the people, to publicly express our opinions, our objections, our demands, right? So if you don't like what you see going on in this country right now, show up later on today at the No Kings rally, which is happening at Travis Park. Now, Alex, I have to ask you, because the accusations have been thrown out there that you all are paying people to protest. Like, can I sign up and get paid to protest?
Yeah, I would love to get paid for this. That would definitely be a dream. But all of us are 100% volunteer driven and led. Everybody is sacrificing their personal time and sometimes even their personal money, because we don't get any money. So we rely 100% on donations. So,
okay.
If you're somebody that really likes these No Kings protests, that want to see it be bigger and better than ever each time, like, consider a donation, because we definitely need that cash flow to kind of sustain what we're doing, getting a stage, getting fencing, and even if we want a bigger park, getting permitting, like, all that costs money. And so that's how we're going to continue having these amazing No Kings days. And luckily we've had so many generous donors in the past that have helped us get to this point. And hopefully, again, we can just make it like bigger and better each time.
Let me ask you, before I let you go, what is it that people can expect? If I've never been to a protest, like, we have a lot of people that are listening to the radio right now. They've never been to a protest. They've never been to a rally. They're not political. Is this a good thing for them to show up and bring their family to? Is it safe?
Yeah, that's a great question. And let me just throw a quick correction real quick, because we start at 4, but the march that we want to do is at 5.
Okay, so you want people to get there at 4 and mingle and get to know each other.
So what can you expect if you're there and you've never been there? Well, first of all, you're going to see performers, you're going to see speakers, so we have entertainment. You're going to see a variety of different organizations there that are tabling. This is actually going to be our biggest in terms of the amount of organizations that are supporting. We have over 20. And so you can see a lot of different organizations in terms of, what do they specifically do in the community? What do they support? What does volunteering with them look like or whatever? So, even though we love for people that, want to get more involved in the community, volunteer with us, we know we're not always the perfect fit for people. So we have different organizations out there so you can get involved in your community. And the last thing I would say you expect is, a bunch of like-minded people that are on the same page as you. Ultimately, we might differ in very little aspects here and there, but we all are against the Trump administration and what they are currently doing. And the number one feedback that we always get from our events is usually those people that, again, were not really politically active, never been to a protest. They compliment us on that, shared viewed aspect, that they felt so supported, they felt heard, they didn't really have family or friends that had the same views as them. So it's a great opportunity to really get together with the community.
No, that's awesome. One of my favorite things I have to say is going and watching everybody get dressed up, because a lot of folks like to a lot of folks are veteran protesters, and so I love to see them all decked out, and I love the signs. The signs are the best. People get so creative. So if you haven't, stop by Walmart, stop by Dollar Tree, get some supplies, make some fun creative posters, and come down to the No Kings rally that starts today at 4 p.m. in Travis Park. People are going to start gathering, get there early, take a bus, take an Uber, find some parking, and march and enjoy the day at Travis Park. For more information, you can go to nokings.org, or you can go to 5050.1. That's a different website. That was a little harder for me to get. 5050.1. OME. Alex, thank you so much for coming on the show. Is there anything you want folks to know before you go?
You can follow us we're basically on every social media outside of Twitter.
Right.
You can go to our linktree/5051SATX. You can find all of our social medias on there, our volunteer form, our donor pages, which is, very important. So we'd love to see you out there on No Kings, and hopefully you have a great time.
All right. Thank you so much, Alex. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're listening to Platica Politica.
Every March, we recognize the achievements, resilience, and contributions of women throughout history. So today we pause to celebrate the women who have built Texas. Texas Governor Ann Richards.
And I think one of the saving graces of Democrats is that we are candid. We talk straight talk. We tell people what we think. And that tradition and those values live today.
Former Texas Senator Leticia Vanderpue.
Mr. President, parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
At what point must a female senator raise her hand or her voice to be recognized over the male colleagues in the room?
The late Congresswoman Barbara Jordan.
We are a people trying not only to solve the problems of the present, unemployment, inflation, but we are attempting on a larger scale to fulfill the promise of America. We are attempting to fulfill our national purpose to create and sustain a society in which all of us are equal.
Former Texas Senator Wendy Davis.
Texans expect honesty and respect from their elected officials, and they will take their power back when disrespected and misused. It's your strength, your courage, your conviction that causes me to say today, I believe in Texas more than ever.
From science and politics, arts to sports, and everyday leadership, women have shaped our world in countless ways, and we are forever grateful.
And we're back on KEDA Radio Jalapeño, whether you're listening to us in Gonzales, Uvalde, Travis County, or right here in Bexar County. We are glad you're spending your Saturday with us. Today is a very important day. It's the Vietnam Veterans Recognition Day. And so joining us this morning is Tony Fuentes from SACVF, the San Antonio Coalition for Veterans and Families. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, sir. Tell us, why is it important to have a Vietnam Veterans Recognition Day?
Well, actually, March 29th is actually National Vietnam Veterans Day.
Okay.
But we're doing it on Saturday today because, of course, Sunday everybody goes to church, and we're going to make sure that everybody is able to attend our event. Yeah. And I think it's important because to honor the Vietnam veterans that served their country proudly during Vietnam, and again, not that, yes, it's been said that we were treated badly when we got back and everything like that, everybody hears, but our country has taken a different turn now. We are thankful for what we did. And it was a very difficult war at the time. There was a lot of stuff going on, protests and so forth. But those of us that were there in Vietnam that served, we didn't care. We were there to serve our country, and we served proudly. And we want to honor those that were privileged to come back home and continue to serve our country. There's a lot of us that are going to be that are here today. They're going to be here today. That as we continue to serve by serving in the Coalition for Veterans and Families. My friend that runs the Purple Heart Association, guys that are commanders of the American Legions, that our service to our country didn't end when we got out. We continue to serve. And that's what we recognize these gentlemen, yeah.
Absolutely. It's important. At the end of the day, we have so many amazing human beings, especially here in San Antonio, which is Military City, USA, that have served our country honorably. And it's important that we recognize them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then especially those that haven't gotten the recognition, what we're going to be doing also, we're going to be giving them out Vietnam veteran medallions.
Okay.
So we're going to be giving it to the first 100 veterans that come. We have 100 medallions, and we're going to give it to them. They're really beautiful medallions to thank them for their service to our country. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Look, at the end of the day, what's important is not the politicians or all the craziness that goes around. What's important is that we take care of the men and women that step up on the front line. As I mentioned to you earlier, I didn't have the good privilege of serving because I grew up during Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and well, they could tell, so I didn't serve. But on top of that, we have some phenomenal people that have stepped up to do the job. I know that a lot of our community, especially Latinos, were mistreated in the war. Is that correct?
Yes. And all of us, it didn't matter what race you were. One of the things that I learned as a young man, 18 years old, when I was serving over there, I was a combat medic. And when our men got injured, we were there to respond to medics. And one of the things that I saw that whether you're brown, yellow, black, or white, we all bled red for our country. And I still hold that dear through what we do through our nonprofit, the coalition. We continue to help veterans that are struggling out in the community. We step up and help the homeless, those that need food insecurities, utility assistance. We still are helping them.
Your website says that you make sure no veteran or their family is left behind, whether that's through crisis in housing or food or essential needs. Tell us some of the work that you all do and how can some of the work that you all do as an organization.
Well, one of the things that we started 5 years ago is Operation Emergent Needs. The veterans that are struggling out in the streets need the help right now. And when we created this program, is based on the fact of a combat medic. When a combat medic gets hurt in combat, when a veteran gets hurt in combat, the combat medic responds right away. So same thing with the coalition. If we get a veteran that is homeless, we can get them in the hotel for 7 days. If not the first day, the second day. Veterans with food insecurities, families, we give them HEB gift cards, $100, up to $200, depending on the family. We pay utility bills. We pay those online, if not the first day. We pay up to $200. So this past year, we helped over 500 veterans and families. So for a small-time nonprofit as we are,
that's amazing.
We really step up to the plate. Yes, sir.
And that's awesome.
To do that. Yes, sir.
So your website is what?
SACVF.org.
SACVF.org. So if there's a veteran or a family in need, they can reach out to you on the website or on social media?
Yes.
That's awesome. And where do you get your funding from? Is this some, like, do you guys have some big corporations backing you all, or some big government programs?
Well, we do fundraisers. We do golf tournaments. We do car shows. We do, we have a Magnolia Pancake House does a fundraiser for us every year. And then plus my job as a director is to go around the community to get sponsors, get donations. We do get some funding from the Bexar County that help us because they know what we do. But mainly it's through fundraising and donations. Yeah.
That's amazing. It's great to see the community stepping up and folks getting involved so that they can get involved, so that they can help provide for these needs. Do you have to be a veteran to be involved in the organization?
No. One of the things that I always tell people that reach out to us, there's many ways to serve your country. You don't have to serve in the military. By what you do promoting us, you're serving the veteran community. There's teachers, there's firemen, nurses, those that are volunteering in veteran organizations. There's many ways to serve your country. No, I don't hold anybody less than what we did that is helping serve veterans. No, we don't ever deny anybody that wants to come in and volunteer with us. If they're not a veteran, it's okay.
That's awesome. I'm looking at your website, and it says that you have served over 1,200 veterans since you all got started, and have given over $286,000 out to the community. That's amazing.
Well, it's actually more by now, but we take pride in what we do. I have a team of what we call quick responders, the guys that go out there and help the veterans, and we have a board of directors. It's a team effort. No one is greater than the coalition. Our mission as military guys, no one gets left behind. We try to help everybody. We never tell somebody we can't help them. If we can't help them, we refer them to somebody that can. And I had a soldier come in the other day that broke down crying because we gave him $100 HEB gift card. He goes, "Well, I didn't come to ask you for. I didn't want a handout." I said, "Sir, it's not a handout. It's a hand up to help you get by this difficult time that you're going through. But you're going to be okay." And those are the things that we want to hear from people that are coming for us. That we don't want to give them a handout. We want to give them a hand up to get them back on their feet.
Absolutely. That's amazing. I really appreciate the work. And of course, thank you for the service that you've done, not just in the military, but not just as a veteran, but continue to do. Speaking of which, as we mentioned at the top of the show, today is Vietnam Veterans Recognition Day, and you all are having an event. Tell me about that event.
Yeah, well, we're doing it at the Lynn Museum. It's the Vietnam Grunt Museum. That gentleman that owns that building is a Vietnam veteran.
All right.
And he had an extra space in his building, and he had foresight to say, "I'm going to create a Vietnam museum in my building." And he has a lot of really great artifacts in there from Vietnam. Vietnam veterans have come in and donated some of their stuff that they want displayed. It's really a solemn place to go. And the reason he called it the Vietnam Grunt Museum, because those of us that served in combat, we were called grunts. And I've been asked, why do they call you grunts? Well, because we're the best, we're out there in the jungles. We're out there in the mud. We're out there with the mosquitoes. We're out there. We're out there, a week at a time, out in the, and most of all, trying to survive from day to day, from the enemy, it's an honor, for us to have served our country, and he created that because he believes that our country is losing its patriotism, and to me, every time I go to this museum, it's a solemn place, and most of all, is to remember the 58,000 plus men and women that gave the ultimate sacrifice in Vietnam. Now, as I've been doing more research on Vietnam, there was over 10,000 women that served during that time. And there was eight women that were actually died in Vietnam from wounds. And they were mainly nurses. Back in that time, women weren't allowed in the combat, but they were there as nurses. Intelligence, other transportation, but there was actually 8 nurses that were actually killed there in Vietnam by shelling or or there was 2 that were captured, actually, and
Really?
they're captured. Yes.
Wow, that's an amazing story to tell. We're going to have to explore that a little more.
Well, it is, because rightfully so, women veterans are not recognized as much as the veterans, male veterans. You know, it's a very underserved area of women veterans, but I take it upon myself to always recognize women veterans because they served our country right alongside us.
No, absolutely. That is extremely important. Mr. Fuentes, what do you want folks to know before you head out about your organization or about the event?
Well, about our organization, you know, we're I keep saying we're a small nonprofit.
I don't know. You do a lot of work.
but we're honestly, we're really pretty big already. You know, we've grown to where we're at. You know, I have a staff of 3, a really great board of directors, volunteers that step up to help. And, you know, it's not about us. It's about serving those that are in need, you know, and we're a faith-based organization, you know, and we learn from God how to serve. So we serve our community, our veterans, those that are struggling, you know, and we, you know, we feed the poor, we take care of the homeless and those that need further help. And it's very humbling for us to do what we do. And when you hear back from one of the veterans that we helped and you know, they're back on their feet, if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't know where I'm at. But one of the most important things that we try to stress, we don't know how many veterans we helped that we kept from committing suicide. There's 22 veterans that are taking their lives every single day. If we're able to help one, then we did our job. But we get calls from guys that tell us, man, if you hadn't answered your phone, we were ready to end it. It is tough out there, you know, but we take pride in that. And our event, you know, later today, come on and you're going to hear some great stories from Vietnam veterans. We have Senator Menendez going to be a speaker, possibly Commissioner Moody. I've got a Vietnam veteran from the Edgewood School District that served in Vietnam. Now, Edgewood, they had the highest rate of soldiers that were killed in Vietnam in the United States. In the United States.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and that's what I mean by patriotism. Back in the day in the 70s, us Mexicanos, man, you know, we would, like me, I felt like it was my obligation to serve my country. No questions asked.
Absolutely.
And you know, a lot of us were there. The Hispanics, there was a lot of Hispanics there in Vietnam, but there was all kinds. I mean, you know, we all fought a war that was difficult, but whether you're white, brown, or black, you know, we served together as brothers. And so now we continue to do that and take care of each other still.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for the work you're doing. As Mr. Fuentes said, if you need support or help, visit sacvf.org. That's SACVF.org. Also join them today for Vietnam Veterans Recognition Day celebration from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Vietnam Grunt Memorial at 4499 Pond Hill Drive. You can visit more information on Facebook or online. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Estás escuchando Platica Política. Quédate con nosotros para enterarte de las últimas noticias, análisis políticos y un poco de chisme. Aquí en KEDA Radio Jalapeño.
Así es. Escúchanos en directo, síguenos en las redes sociales o sintoniza donde quiera que escuches tus podcasts favoritos.
We are back on Platica Politica. Oh my goodness, there's so much going on in the world of politics. You know, if you'd have asked me a year ago how crazy I thought things would be, I'd be like, oh, it's just not going to be that bad. Donald Trump's going to get into office and, you know, he'll figure it out. He's going to have a strong group of advisors around him. And then it turns out it is that bad.
Yeah, it's like a revenge tour.
Yeah, having said that, I've got Mary Pietrazik joining us this morning. Mary, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Robert. How are you doing?
I am great, and you are one of my favorite people in the world. And the reason that is because Mary, you know, is involved in politics. She's also a lawyer. She does federal work, local work, and also the president of the Bexar County Democratic Women. So there's lots of lenses and perspectives that Mary looks through when she speaks. And so I always think you speak with great knowledge and great intelligence. And the drunker you get. No, I'm just teasing. I'm just kidding. We won't go there.
The more
Mary?
elaborate I say things.
Yeah. So we're not taking shots on this end, but we are talking a little bit of chisme. What is going on with all this craziness with ICE agents in the airports? What are you seeing out there?
Well, what I'm seeing a lot of is it's quite interesting because with the policies that are in place in the airports, they're not allowed to wear the normal face coverings that
The masks and all the
Yeah.
coverings, yeah.
So they're not used to wearing, or I guess they're not allowed to wear those. And so what we're seeing a lot of is people recording them in the airport, which, First Amendment they're allowed to do. And so I don't foresee them being in the airports for a whole lot longer because I think they really enjoy hiding behind those masks.
You can do the craziness, when you're hiding behind a mask, you can do a lot more and take a lot more liberties, is what I will say, as opposed to being exposed. Now, y'all, if you haven't done so, if you're on TikTok or if on Facebook, you have to Google or search ICE agents in airports. It is hilarious.
They are running around. I don't think they're able to actually, do anything or be effective because they're too busy trying to hide, because they don't have those face coverings right now.
Look, I support the men and women in blue. I support the men and women that step up to the plate to protect and serve our communities. But this particular agency, this ICE agency, is taking on a different role. It's taking a more political role than it is a law enforcement role. Am I correct? Are you seeing the same thing?
I am definitely seeing the same thing. I think when people went to the voting booth originally, when they voted for this administration, they were told, well, we're just going after the criminals. And the next thing you know, they're showing up at Home Depot. So now you're picking
on
the people
right
on job sites, and then you see people on roofs that aren't coming down, and it's just turned into what it is right now. I think what the voting population was told, that they were just going to be targeting specific individuals, and similar to what the other administrations had done previously. And then it's turned into this whole roundup thing, and a lot of people that came in under the CBP1 under Biden, they completely tried to void all of that out and say, oh, well, you're no longer here legally, even though they came in originally through an application process, through the vetting process. And so it's been really, really interesting and difficult to kind of navigate and tell people their rights. Most of my clients, when they ask me certain questions, my response is, this administration is just so unpredictable. If you would have asked me a year ago if I thought one of my clients would be on a plane to CCOT, I would have told you were crazy.
That's right. You had a client that was taken. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it was, and I didn't know about it until the Associated Press called me and was asking me, my thoughts, and that was the first time I even knew that, I had a client that was on one of those planes, and so immediately I contacted the ACLU in DC, got in contact with those attorneys, and I was able to provide them the information that they needed, because they were saying that he was a gang member, even though it was never a part of any of the, pre-sentence investigation report, nothing. There was no indication that he was a gang member. He was just from Venezuela.
And were you able to get him out of there?
Luckily, he ended up on that plane that was en route that got redirected back. And so, yes.
That's amazing. You have been on the front lines. You've done federal indigent defense. So it's important that people know you're not just a lawyer that's a crazy liberal that's talking trash, right? You might consider you a crazy liberal, but you are someone that's been in there. You've seen things from Operation Lone Star all the way to, gosh, even having your clients targeted in this manner. And I think there are a lot of folks, I agree with you. There are a lot of folks that went to the voting booth because they wanted to see change, right? They weren't happy with the Democratic Party. And look, I may be a Democrat, but I'll say it. We don't always get it right. So there were a lot of folks that were unhappy and thought that voting for Donald Trump meant that they were going to see change. But now we even have, there was a young man that has a construction company in South Texas that was supposed to build hundreds of homes and can't get workers because ICE has come on to these job sites. Right. It's crazy.
It is crazy. I mean, and I'll tell you though, like on the flip side of that, what they have seen is these people that were transported in and smuggled in from the border. There are construction companies that are holding those people hostage in a way, and telling family members that, hey, either you fork up some more money and we'll release them, or they make them work off the debt at these construction sites. And so it is a real problem on both sides, but there has to be some way to be able to prove without the raids to the sites and things like that. I think if there was more communication, I think things can be resolved, but I think law enforcement likes the element of surprise when it comes to these sites. But there is a legitimate concern, but I just think that there's other ways to do it.
There are definitely better ways to do it. I think that you cannot tell me that ICE, in their initial mission was, or let me just restate that and say, ICE in their initial mission said, as you stated, that they were coming after the drug traffickers, the gang members, people that were hurting folks that were here taking advantage of the system. And yet the places that they're raiding are work sites and going after people that are showing up to court and all those. These are not violent criminals. These are people that are living and trying to do better for their community. So it's quite shocking to me to do that. Let's change gears a little bit. And actually, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to change gears. We're going to continue this conversation. You're listening to Platica Politica right here on KEDA Radio Jalapeño 99.9, 1540 AM. We'll be right back.
Looking for a career that makes a difference? The City of San Antonio is hiring. Careers at the City of San Antonio play a vital role in our community. Our jobs help keep our city working for families in our community. Working with the city is more than a job. It's a purpose. We have a job for you. For a list of career opportunities, visit sa.gov/careers.
We are back on Platica Politica. We are talking to one of my favorite human beings, Mary Pietrazik. She's a lawyer here in San Antonio that's done federal law. She does federal indigent defense as well as has been active in local politics. Mary, I hope we haven't scared you away. You're still here.
No, I'm still here.
You're still here. You're still standing, darn it.
Yeah.
Hey, Mary, we've been talking about ICE and all the craziness that's going on there, but I want to change gears a little bit. If you're traveling, right, there's a lot of fear about traveling, leaving the country, those types of things. What should people know about traveling right now? I guess traveling if you're an immigrant.
So if you're an immigrant, so like if you have LPR status, or it's just not a good time to travel right now. You don't know what's going to change before you get back. So a lot of my clients that are
constant,
it is. It's just it's so unpredictable. And so what I've been telling my clients is, if you want to live here and be here, you cannot leave for a while, and that's just how it is. And so if you're a citizen or a naturalized citizen, then you're good for now.
You're absolutely right. The rules keep changing, right? Just when we think, oh, it can't get crazier, it just gets crazier. Or just when you think, well, they couldn't possibly do that, they possibly do it. They actually do it, right?
We're talking about birthright citizenship and how it's just a mess,
When Donald Trump was running the first time, way back when, he was talking about third generation deportation, and it was something he said in a blip. It was like one of those things that he said in a blip. It was said in a speech, and then we never heard it again. And third generation deportation was all about if you were here, if you're third generation back, so like your great grandparents came illegally. Your grandparents came back illegally. He wanted to deport you, and he stopped saying that because they told him very quickly, like, you cannot say that. We cannot get rid of birthright citizenship. And now they're fighting that in the Supreme Court. So it's very, very strange. Operation 2026 or whatever that operation was that they put out, that document, lo que sea la cosa, they put out all these crazy things that they were wanting to do, and they're doing it. They're actively doing it. And while people may have thought they were voting for one thing, they didn't do their research, and it's unfortunate. Now we're seeing all of this craziness take place. So you're telling your clients, if you're traveling, don't travel, and it's certainly not a good time to break the law.
No, it's never a good time.
It's never a good time to break the law. Yeah. Oh my God, Sheriff Salazar is going to yell at me later. Yeah, never a good time to break the law, but especially now, you have to be on your P's and Q's.
If you're trying to plan your law-breaking schedule, yeah, definitely not right now.
Law-breaking schedule. No, but seriously, do not, if you are here and you're on DACA, or if you're in some sort of status, right, or have seeking asylum, do not break the law right now. It's not the time to do it. Act right.
Well, and I will tell you, like, when it comes to like DACA and those situations, a lot of the time, they end up with a DWI, and that's enough to deport them. And that's just sad because they're here. And DACA is a really interesting, because it's not status. It's like non-status, but not deportable status, right? But if you give them a reason right now, especially, they're looking for a reason. Yeah, they're looking for a reason.
Right. Take care of yourself, protect yourself, and don't do anything crazy. And just be above the law. You have to be above the law. And it's unfortunate that we have to say that, right? Because we all make mistakes. We all do silly things. We've all, done the things that we look back and say, oh man, thank God I didn't get caught. But by the grace of God, we didn't.
Thank God there wasn't social media when I was in high school.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh my Lord. I am so thankful that I grew up like in high school. I think at the end of my high school tenures when MySpace showed up and cell phones showed up, but it was like already on our way out. So thank God for that. Having said that, what should I know if I get approached by an ICE agent? Because there is a difference between sheriffs, police, and ICE. So let's talk about ICE first. If I'm at the airport, or if I'm traveling, traversing across this country, as they like to say, what is it that I get approached by an ICE agent? What do I do?
So there's like 3 different situations. You have your street, interviews where they approach you on the street. You have your, border, airport, that situation. Then you have like at your house. And so when we're talking about the airport, you have a lot less wiggle room as far as like your rights. And so because we're talking about a port of entry, essentially.
Okay.
And so, but especially,
I would have never thought of an airport as a port of entry. That's interesting.
But anything where, because San Antonio is like an international airport, right? Okay. So, so you have your Customs and Border Protection there, but specifically, like if you're coming, let's say, from Mexico through the like port of entry on the road, you can say I don't consent to you searching my car, but that does not matter.
Yeah, sure.
You can say I don't consent to you searching my phone, like they can still do it. They can ask you what your citizenship is at those port of entries, and you do have to provide them that information. Other than that, though, if you're on the street and you're approached and you're asked to identify yourself, the first thing that you say is, am I being detained or am I free to leave? And that is it.
Okay.
And if their response is nothing short of answering that question, you can walk away.
Okay, but I have to ask because I've heard, and I've seen the videos. I've personally not been ever detained, but if the person says, I think the question is always that we always ask is, am I under arrest? That's what I was always taught. But you're saying, am I detained or free to go? Right. That's the question to be asking. Because if they say I'm free to go, then walk away.
Walk away, yeah, absolutely.
But what if they stand in front of you and like you can walk away, but then now you're standing in front of me, blocking me. What do I do there?
Well, then walk the other way. Right?
Walk the other way.
Right. But no, so real quick, back to your thing, when we talk about detention versus arrest. So we'll say like a normal traffic stop, the officer pulls you over, you're being detained. You're not actually under arrest, because arrest only comes after there's been a probable cause determination that you've committed some type of offense. Detention really just means that the officer has a reasonable suspicion that you may or may not have committed some type of offense, which is why it's important that if they say you are being detained, that you stay there. But after that, you also have your right to remain silent. And so that's the next thing that you say, is that I am invoking my right to remain silent. I am choosing to remain silent. And the next step is, I want a lawyer. And nothing other than I want a lawyer, because there was a case out of Louisiana where this guy said, I want a lawyer dog, right? And I want a lawyer dog. And then it went all the way up to through the circuits and the courts. And the court determined that that was not unequivocally requesting a lawyer, because he could have been requesting a lawyer dog. And so that is how
I didn't know they existed.
that is how serious a lawyer dog. But that is so unequivocally, I want a lawyer, full stop.
So if you get stopped by a cop, remain silent.
We're talking about on the street, not traffic stops.
Okay.
So traffic stops are totally different, but on the street.
Yeah, just remain silent, and then I want a lawyer. Those are the words that you say. You
a lawyer, not I think I want a lawyer. Do you think I should get a lawyer? Just I want a lawyer. Unequivocal.
Un abogado. That's important. No, that's absolutely important. I completely get that. Okay, so let's talk traffic stops.
Okay. Traffic stop. So there's been some, traffic violation, so they pull you over. That is a form of detention. You're not free to leave. But you also do not have to answer immigration questions.
You do not have to answer immigration questions. Okay, that's new.
And so if they ask you, are you a U.S. citizen, things like that. Now, we're not talking about the checkpoints that you have to go through, like in Uvalde, Eagle Pass, and things like that.
That's port of entry, right?
Those are like a port of entry, but they're just like Border Patrol checkpoints where you do have to answer that question. But at the end of the day, if you're getting pulled over, I think, gosh, I've been pulled over on 90 so many times because they said
that's something to be proud of.
Well, no. They think my tent is too dark. Those are right. And so they have their little mechanism, and they check it and stuff. So it could be something like that, something that's not even an actual traffic violation that I'm committing. So, but they use that as reasonable suspicion to detain you and, see what's going on in your car.
It's, I feel like as Americans, we've seen the movies, we've seen the TV shows where people want to argue with the cop. They want to litigate it right then and there. And the one thing that I've learned from you is fight it in trial, fight it in court. Like, do not argue with the guy. In that moment, when you get pulled over by a cop, that cop is the most powerful person in that scenario. And
Absolutely.
So don't fight it.
Well, and it's one of those situations that I always tell my clients when they want to ask me like hypotheticals about, different defenses and things like that. And I always tell them, you can beat the charge, but you can't beat the ride.
Yeah.
And basically, you may eventually get this charge dismissed, but you're not going to beat them, putting you in the back of the patrol car and arresting you. So.
Do not argue with a cop. You're not going to win that argument. You never win that argument. I had a conversation with a friend recently, and I was telling them we were talking about like what to do if you get stopped. Obviously, I'm not a lawyer, so everything I say is not advice. It's not legal advice. But I always tell folks like it's you just don't argue with the cop, and at the same time, like don't speak. Like don't tell them where you've been, how much drinking you've done. Like everything you say is being used, and that cop in that moment is creating a little calculator. He's using his little policeman calculator to determine what potential charges or what he can articulate as far as a reason for stopping you. So it's important to stay silent.
Very much. And I think a lot of people were used to nerves, anxiety, things like that because of the situation. We want to fill the void of silence with words, but just resist that urge.
And that's hard because I argue. I'm a fighter. Like I want to prove you wrong. And so I totally understand the need to be silent, but
say less.
Difficult to say less sometimes. All right, Mary, what great information. Thank you so much for joining us right here on Platica Politica. Is there anything you think folks need to know before you head out?
Absolutely. So I know that aclu.org has some great insight into, specific situations that people are dealing with, specifically people that are like have LPR status or CBP1 status, or you're even here on a work visa. They have a lot of great resources to be able to go through and kind of click on and stuff like that. So aclu.org is a great website to kind of go through and look through.
All right. Thank you so much. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Estás escuchando Platica Política. Quédate con nosotros para enterarte de las últimas noticias, análisis políticos y un poco de chisme. Aquí en KEDA Radio Jalapeño.
Así es. Escúchanos en directo, síguenos en las redes sociales o sintoniza donde quiera que escuches tus podcasts favoritos.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Platica Politica. There is so much that is going on in the world around us. And I know that sometimes it seems crazy and overwhelming, but stick with people you know, stick with people who love you, and get involved in the system. Listen, this country was built over 250 years ago because our forefathers decided they wanted to stand up against a king, against a monarch. They didn't want to serve under a king. They wanted to create a government that was of the people, for the people, and by the people. And the only way that that history and that tradition continues, the only reason our country is going to remain free is if you all participate and get involved in the process. Hey, listen, we've got two great events that we talked about today. We talked about the No Kings Rally, where people are standing up for their rights and making their voice heard in a very safe and peaceful manner. But if protesting is not your thing, you want to honor the men and women that have served our country, visit the event that is happening today to honor our Vietnam veterans. There's definitely ways that you can get involved. And listen, if you don't want to do any of those things, be kind to one another, show up for each other, love your neighbor as we were told to do so. And so get involved in the process. The only reason and the only way this country is going to be the great country that it is if we all step in and do our part. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Platica Politica. If there's somebody that you want to hear from, if there's somebody you think I should interview or a topic you want to discuss, please feel free to reach out. I'm on all Facebook social media platforms, TikTok, on Instagram as Robert Vargas III. You can also look up Platica Politica and watch previous episodes online, wherever you get your social media and wherever you get your favorite podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week right here on KEDA Radio Jalapeño.